Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered why some bad memories just keep popping back into your head and how much those memories bother you? Well, today we're diving into a fascinating study that explores exactly that. This paper looks at something called intrusive memories, which are a big part of conditions like PTSD. They're those unwanted memories that crash into your mind, often with strong feelings and physical reactions. Think of replaying a scary movie scene over and over, or a moment from a really bad day that just won't leave you alone. The big question here is how the feeling of those memories affects how often they happen. Does feeling really distressed by a memory make it more likely to pop up again soon? So, what did these researchers do to figure this out? They didn't go out looking for people who had experienced major trauma, because that kind of study is really sensitive and hard to do ethically. Instead, they used something called analog trauma studies. Imagine taking healthy people and exposing them to something unsettling, like watching a compilation of intense movie clips depicting accidents or violence. They call this the trauma film paradigm, or in some studies, participants were asked to recall a distressing personal life event. The idea is to create a situation that mimics some aspects of a traumatic experience in a controlled lab setting. They gathered data from 6 different studies that had already done experiments like this. In these studies, after people experienced these distressing events, they were asked to keep diaries. Not like Dear Diary entries, but more like a log. They would record every time an intrusive memory popped up, and for each memory, they'd rate how much distress it caused them, usually on a scale from 0 to 10. So they had a bunch of people, over 500 of them, and they tracked thousands of these unwanted memories. This is pretty cool because they made all their data and the computer code they used to analyze it publicly available. This means other scientists can check their work or build on it. They looked at the order in which these memories happened and the distress levels associated with them. They wanted to see if a highly distressing memory was followed by another memory sooner than a less distressing one. And here is the main finding, the big headline: yes, it does. When a memory felt more distressing, it made it more likely for another intrusive memory to occur, and occur sooner. Think of it like a snowball effect. A really upsetting memory makes you more vulnerable, and then another one hits, which makes you even more upset, and you get stuck in a loop. This graph basically shows that the higher the distress rating, the higher the chance of having another intrusion. The gray area shows the range of uncertainty, but the main trend is super clear. Even though the effect was described as modest, the statistical evidence was strong. They said there was a 98% probability of a genuine effect and a 94% probability that the effect was practically meaningful. This means it is very unlikely that this finding is just a random fluke. The researchers were particularly interested in how people's thoughts about the event and their memories might influence this. For instance, some studies involve giving participants information that might make them expect a lot of distress or fewer intrusions. They found that when distress was higher, the time between intrusions tended to be shorter. This suggests that distress isn't just a side effect of these memories. It actually plays a role in making them happen more often. Interestingly, they didn't find strong evidence that the longer you go without an intrusion, the higher the chance of one popping up. Instead, it seemed more about the intensity of the last intrusion. It is like if you are feeling really down, you are just more generally sensitive to things that trigger bad feelings rather than time itself making you more prone. Now, like any good research, they also pointed out what they didn't find perfectly clear answers on. There were some differences between the studies they combined. For example, one study showed a stronger link between distress and intrusion frequency. This could be due to little differences in how the studies were run, the exact type of unsettling movie clips used, or even how participants were instructed to log their memories. They also mentioned that the studies looked at non-clinical populations, so we can't automatically say this exact pattern applies to people with diagnosed PTSD, where intrusions are often more severe and persistent. Other limitations include the fact that these were secondary analyses, meaning they weren't planned from the very beginning of the original studies. This doesn't make the findings invalid, but it means they might need to be confirmed by studies designed specifically for this question. Also, logging intrusions is all by self-report. We can't always be sure people are logging them the absolute second they happen, or that the act of logging doesn't somehow change their experience. They also noted that the observational windows were relatively short, meaning the diaries were kept for a limited time. So we don't know if this distress recurrence link holds up over weeks or months. So, what is the big takeaway message here? Distress isn't just a feeling that happens alongside intrusive memories. It actively seems to make them more likely to happen again. This is a really important insight for understanding how these memories persist. For people struggling with intrusive memories, this is a game changer. It suggests that therapy is focused on reducing the distress associated with those memories, not just on the memories themselves, could be super effective. Think about cognitive behavioral therapy or exposure therapy techniques that help you process those upsetting feelings and thoughts. And in our tech-savvy world, this opens up ideas for what they call just-in-time adaptive interventions. Imagine an app that detects when you might be starting to feel really distressed by a memory and then offers a quick coping strategy right then and there. It's like giving you a tool exactly when you need it, breaking that cycle before it gets worse. What is next for this kind of research? Well, they really want to see if this holds true for people with diagnosed PTSD and if these effects last over longer periods. They also suggest using technology like smartphone apps to deliver interventions in real time. It is all about understanding that tricky dance between our thoughts, our feelings, and our memories, and finding ways to help people break free from the ones that cause them pain. So, what are your thoughts on this? Have you experienced intrusive memories? And do you notice a link between how distressed you feel and how often they happen? Let us know in the comments below, and if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more explorations into the fascinating world of psychology. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.